This is what you see, but this is what's happening under the ocean's blue surface. Climate change and global warming have been polluting our Earth for thousands of years, changing weather patterns, filling it with chemicals, melting our ice caps. Now it's the reefs' turn to suffer. With the amount of pollution on our Earth, the oceans and its inhabitants are being affected as well. What will we do when our actions destroy the ecosystem? When will we learn that there are consequences for our actions? It all started years ago, with factories and our constant non-renewable resource issues. The changes only started to begin on a minimal level back then. They then grew and expanded into the global problems we are facing today. Over the course of many years, statistics have proven that global warming is at its worst. This graph is measuring the atmospheric carbon dioxide levels over the past 12 years. Here we can see that carbon dioxide emissions have risen by 30 ppm in the past 12 years, and levels are only rising. Two locations, Bermuda and Hawaii, are being affected by the increase of CO2 emissions in the atmosphere. As you can see, if the amount of dissolved CO2 in our oceans increase, then the pH decreases, resulting in higher acidity levels. They compose of calcium carbonate skeletons. As pH levels reduce, acidity in the water increases, resulting in ocean acidification. Ocean acidification is when pH levels in the ocean decrease due to the increased amount of CO2 in the atmosphere, mainly due to human activity. Now, how does ocean acidification work? Carbonic acid is created when CO2 dissolves in water, resulting in a release of hydrogen ions and therefore decrease in pH levels. Hydrogen ions combine with carbonate ions when they are released into the water, lowering the concentration of carbonate ions. Carbonate ions are what corals need to build their skeletons stronger. As the concentration of this decreases, the corals grow weaker and more fragile and therefore more vulnerable to erosion. The egg is representation of the coral reefs and the vinegar is representing the acetic acid. The egg has been left in the jar of vinegar for 24 hours, and we can see that the acid has denatured the molecules. The shell of the egg has completely dissolved, and the proteins that have reacted with the vinegar have denatured, creating a rubbery texture, almost as if it is cooked. This is especially true in the tissue of the coral. The protons are damaged, making the tissue useless and harming the coral. The death of the reef is just over the horizon, and we're the reason why it's happening in the first place. They have reached a critical point, and finding a solution is our only option. Sustainable transport, less water wastage, disposing of waste properly, no pesticides, supporting the reefs, and asking for government support are all sustainable options. The death of the coral can also lead to job loss, which in turn hurts our economy and puts millions out of work. In the past 30 years, we have lost half our coral reefs, which support about 500 million people across the planet. Global value of the coral reefs economically are estimated to be about $300 to $375 billion. Coral reefs provide shelter for over 25% of marine species.
I was an investor in seafood stocks a while ago. Unfortunately, I lost my job due to the significantly less amount of seafood being sold.
I was the owner of a fishery in Indonesia called Roadshow Fisheries. It started off with a thriving business, but it gradually faded to a bankrupt dream that I could barely sustain.
Thousands of dollars were spent on those projects. I lost it all.
It was hard when it first happened. As the coral reefs died, so did the fish, and there was nothing I thought I could do to help.
My only method was to support my family fell to the ground, and I won't deal with another.
Imagining that something we thought was so small could cause a change so big in our lives. We should have protected it when we still had the chance.
"2050 is the year scientists have predicted to be the end of reef, just 32 years before we lose one of the most diverse ecosystems on the planet. The end for some of these species are just decades away and growing closer than ever. We have to work together to bring awareness to this issue before it's too late for us and the reef.